Okay. Hello, this is
Hello.
Yvette Francino and Becky. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Becky Burns, and I'm happy to be taking this course with you, Yvette. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. I'm excited that you're interested in learning. So, very brief introduction. I'm an Agile coach, and there's often a lot of confusion about Agile, and Becky here is willing to be um, a guinea pig for me, and I'm a guinea pig for her, in that we're helping each other with our different projects. And one of my projects is to teach people about how they can use Agile in everyday life and what that is all about. And so Agile basically is a lot of different things. It's an umbrella term, and it covers a lot of techniques and tools and frameworks, systems, and also a mindset. And the mindset and all of these things have something in common, which is that they're aimed at helping people manage change and uncertainty. And it's really just kind of a project management set of concepts and tools. And but the project management is useful, even though we use it in software development, or it started and originated there. Um, it's being adapted to be used for all lines of business and even can be used in everyday life. So I wanted to um, show ways that we might use it, even though Becky and I are both retired. We still have projects and things that we are working on, and this is a way we might want to organize our lives. So I gave an example here. Specifically, we're here in the time of Corona, and we cannot do what we normally do, but still there is a lot that we can do. And so I was telling Becky that when we want to start an Agile project, the first step is to create backlog. And that is always, there are books and techniques and methods about how you get your initial backlog, but often the Agile frameworks come into it as though your backlog is already there. So I want to talk just for a minute about how you can come up with a backlog. So the first thing you might want to do is create an idea board. And this kind of helps you get your mind around what's going to be the scope of what you're going to work on in this using this Agile methodology. So I gave an example of my idea board that includes some big projects. So I know these projects I'm not going to do in a week, or they're going to take a longer amount of time. Those are good candidates to use Agile for, because big projects, we want to break those into smaller pieces, and we don't really know exactly how we're going to do them yet. So we do little pieces and we learn as we go. So those are great candidates for using an Agile project management tool for. Also, other things that I like to do, socialize, help, learn. These also we can mix in with our Agile framework. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about how much detail we put in at this level on the idea board, but at some point we want to then decide what we're going to do within our next iteration. And so I created another board. By the way, the tool I'm using here is Trello, but you don't have to use Trello. Trello is an online tool that helps you organize your thoughts and things. I started, and many people can just use a spreadsheet to kind of for their idea board, and they can mix it all up. They don't have to have them in different kinds of columns, but you start with your idea board, and then you decide what you want to tackle in your iteration. So an iteration is a period of time. I'm going to suggest we have 1 week iterations. Question, Becky?
Yeah, can we see your spreadsheet again for just a minute? I'm curious how the topics on the spreadsheet go with the idea board.
Well, they don't match one-on-one just because
Right.
I was playing, but I created tabs in my spreadsheet. So I had ideas for helping during during the coronavirus, a lot of things, writing letters and cards to seniors and active listening, reconnecting with friends and family, things like that. I just kind of threw a lot of, every time I thought of an idea, I put it on here. And
Oh, I
then,
see the tabs at the bottom. Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
okay, yes. So they're kind of similar. The tabs on the bottom are kind of similar to what this idea board. And I looked at that again to kind of populate my Trello board here. So good question. Now, any other questions before we sort of move on? So this could be just, you could call it a backlog if you want, but you usually in Agile have what might be called a product backlog, or a big backlog that has a lot of things on it that you choose from when you want to then go populate what you're going to do within your iteration. All right. And so what you want to do in your next iteration, I labeled a new board called Week of April 6th. So we can start this tomorrow. So I created a different board. And now on this board, we haven't done this meeting yet, but I would do a meeting possibly with only myself if I'm doing this by myself, but I'll do it with you later, Becky, and when you want to try to do this for yourself. And I put in here what I'm going to do. So I moved some of the things from the idea board onto this backlog. And some of the things that were maybe, it says create a Carpe Diem Day website. For this, I'd already kind of created a checklist of different things that I want to do this week regarding that. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be done forever, but when you put something in the backlog, you want to be a little more specific about what exactly around this do you want to try to get done this week. And then you can, as you're doing those items, you move them across to doing. Normally we would have a verify, like hopefully if you'd have another person on your team that would sort of be your check, the way you could check each other and make sure, yes, I see that you really did it. And you get that little bit of accountability. And if you're doing it all by yourself, you still might want to have this, even if you're trying to look at it more critically, or asking a friend from the phone or anything else, you kind of want to double check on yourself and just not so easily say, I'm done with that. You kind of go through your list and try to make sure that, yes, I do feel like this is what it should be. And then you move it over to done. So the idea is that by the end of the week, you have done these things on your list. Throughout the week, you are working hopefully with a partner. And again, it could be, if you're not, you can do this on your own, but try to find somewhat of an accountability partner. And you're each either working together on something, or you are checking each other. And if you're stuck, you have somebody else that can kind of help you through that. And so that's kind of a nutshell of using a backlog. Now, again, there will be a lot more detail that when we're creating these descriptions of ways that we want to make sure we define what it means to get to done. That's called the definition of done. And when something is done at the end of the week, what we want to do is a demo to our accountability partner and show them, that we did all these different tasks, and now we have something of value that we can feel proud of and that we can get feedback about. And then we go on to planning our next week. Any questions?
Just a few clarifications. When you use the word iteration, in the first sense, you used it as a time. So our first iteration is a block of time, and it's the week of April 6th. Mm-hmm. It can, I suppose, because things will change, time is going to be a component of every iteration, but it's also the physical, how the ideas look as they go through different times. So for instance, you've got Learn WordPress. Well, that might look really different by the 4th or 5th week, where here it's really a global kind of goal So iteration refers primarily to time or exclusively to time, or is it interacting with the form and format of the details of what you're doing?
Excellent question. I just love, Becky, you are the best question asker. Really, this is not a good, Learn WordPress is not a good title. And I should be more specific about what I want to learn in WordPress, and that should go in this description. And again, in my definition of done, I would say I have created a blog on my site or something, there would be more specifics there. But
Okay.
an iteration is time block, or what we call it a time box. So it is very much time-based. But these things that we're doing, the Agile lingo, usually we call these, what we call them is user stories. They're stories that define what we're going to do, and they're very specific. And one of the reasons they're user stories, which we'll get to in maybe our next class, is that we want to really understand why we're doing these. Who are they for? Who will they add value for? And ideally, that would be the person who would be giving us the feedback at the end to see that we really did add the value that we meant to have. In the case of learning WordPress, the person, the customer in this case is also me. I want to learn it in order to be able to update my website. And so I want to be more specific about what do I need to learn to do to update that website, and then see that I can do that. So anyway, good question. That iterations are time-based, and our cards that we have here are user stories that are deliverables that are adding value. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let me stop.